Hello, listener, and welcome to another episode of the Miskatonic AV Club, a Mythos Busters production. Tonight, I have with me a listener and a fellow citizen of our Discord, Brandon. Welcome, Brandon.
Thanks, Scott. Excited to be here.
Great. Wow, that sounded really cheesy, but I'm okay with it. So we're going to be taking a look at the Phantom of Truth player cards. Brandon, I assume you tested at least 80 games with each of these cards before you came on?
80? I thought you said 800.
Oh, whoops.
Just slipped an extra zero on the invite.
Oh well. All right.
Uh,
Well, why don't you start it off?
all right, let's dive right in with "I'll See You in Hell," which is a Guardian event with the Spirit trait, 2 combat icons, costs nothing in experience or in resources, and says each non-elite enemy engaged with you is defeated. You are defeated and suffer 1 physical trauma. This action does not provoke opportunity attacks of opportunity rather, which is good since you're gonna die anyway.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, if you have a whole bunch of enemies engage with you, if it did provoke an attack of opportunity, the attacks would kill you before this event went off. So
Right, and then you wouldn't finish off all the enemies.
yeah, I do like the flavor text though. The he flicked open the lighter and made his peace. It's kind of
Right,
that super action hero movie where he just that lit cigarette over the shoulder and just walking away slowly.
exactly, and it goes right with the art too. You can see him flicking his lighter.
So
Uh,
you take a
Go
physical
ahead.
trauma, which I think fits well with a lot of guardians. Most of them have a lot of
Hmm.
physical room for trauma, and in a big 3 or 4 player multiplayer game, this might actually be really helpful depending on the scenario.
It could. So, I think this is one of my favorite cards that I will never play. I am so glad this exists. I love everything about this card in flavor and in what it does. But I just don't see taking up slots in my deck to maybe suicide myself just to take down one or maybe more non-elite enemies.
Yeah, I think the fact, I mean, it had to be made non elite because if it included elite, I mean, it could be scenario breaking. Um,
Yeah, maybe if they had loaded it up with even more trauma or something, so it would almost be a once per campaign use.
yeah. Hmm. I wonder if we'll ever see a an upgraded version where it kills all enemies at your location and your
Hmm.
character is killed because that would be sweet.
See, that's the rough thing about this too. You mentioned it would be way better if it killed everything at your location. You can't engage other enemies at your location that might be on other players without taking attacks of opportunity from the ones already on you.
Hmm.
And you're probably not considering this play unless you're already pretty bogged down with damage or horror. So it goes well with taunt, which is taunt is fast, right?
Yep.
Yeah, it goes well with taunts. You know, when I might consider playing this is there's this marathon of an entire 8 scenario campaign called the Iron Man that a bunch of us will be playing at Arkham Knights.
Oh yes.
It would be a good way to get a bathroom break or
Yeah.
bow out of a scenario a little early, take down some enemies with you, and go grab a snack.
Yeah. I think ultimately this comes down to this is a card that's expecting you to be behind or expecting you to be in a losing position and just it puts you in more losing position.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. But I
You,
totally agree with you. It's my most favorite card that I will never play
yeah.
because it's
The
amazing.
one thing I can say about it is it's got those 2 combat pips, and so you could run this like if you were considering an overpower, you could run this instead. You're
Hmm.
giving up that card draw, but getting that minute chance that you'll find that niche situation where this is great.
Yeah. Calvin,
Um,
I think Calvin could use it. A little bit
hmm,
of goodness. I mean, he's gonna
that's a good
want
point.
trauma to a certain point, and he can take the spirit cards.
He can. I don't think I'd really considered that Calvin could take this. It's a little too late now. Calvin's already like 4 trauma of each type in my Forgotten Age campaign, but now I kind of wish I had run this.
So standard. So
Yeah,
standard amount of trauma.
pretty
All
much where
right.
you'd expect him to be 5 scenarios in. Yeah.
Well, a slightly better card in this pack for Guardians is the 45 automatic level 2. but still
Hmm.
4 cost. It's gained a combat pip and still has its agility pip. Item, weapon, firearm, and still uses 4 ammo. Action, spend 1 ammo, fight. You get +2 combat for this attack. This attack still deals 1 damage, but you ignore the retaliate keyword for this attack. Still obviously single-handed.
Right.
Um, how often does retaliate come up?
That's my main gripe here too. It's less drastic than I'll see you in hell, but this is still preparing to lose less instead of win more, is what ignoring the retaliate keyword does, right?
Mm-hmm. I mean, it does give us
And
the +1 combat. Like the original gave us
mhm,
+1, now it's +2. Um, I think this is if you're going to be taking the 45 automatic through a whole campaign, this is a decent upgrade because you're getting that extra 1 pip for the combat test. And on
mhm.
those retaliate enemies, hey, you miss out on that. So
Yeah, and retaliate's not uncommon. I'd wager most scenarios have at least some retaliate enemies.
mhm.
So there will be times when it will just make you feel a little bit bolder in taking kind of a risky test. Um, if they're not going to hit you in the face if you miss.
Yeah.
So I like this card, but I have a hard time putting experience into it. I think, especially since I think this level 2 version of 45 automatic is still not as good as Machete.
Ooh, those are fighting words.
Machete's a resource cheaper
Hmm.
and doesn't use ammo, and
I guess it depends on how many players you have, because I think if you are playing like 3 to 4 player, machete can lose some value because you had to
that's
do.
absolutely right.
Um, I always love the 45 one hand machete in the other.
Yeah, I'm a fan of that too, for sure. Although then you have no hand for your flashlight.
That's what the nerds for. The nerds and their logical reasoning. Speaking of which, you want to read this one?
Sure, logical reasoning is a seeker event that costs 2 resources or gives you 2 willpower pips in a skill test. It has the insight trait, says play only if you have at least 1 clue, and then choose an investigator at your location. That investigator either heals 2 horror or discards a terror card from his or her threat area. And it quotes it quotes Plato in the flavor text, saying, "I am the wisest man alive, for I know one thing, and that is that I know nothing." That's deep.
Oof, deep.
Oh, what do you think of this, Scott?
Um, you know, I for seekers, I'm not sure I like this as much. The card I see this
Mhm.
going into a lot is actually Roland, um,
Hmm.
because he is such low horror that healing 2 horror is like, hey, take a 40% boost to your sanity, essentially. Um, I also like it for like the discarding the terror cards. I believe Frozen in Fear is terror.
Mm.
Um, Dissonant Voices. Like there's a lot of terror voice. There's a lot of good terror cards that are, or sorry, bad terror cards that I wouldn't mind having this round for.
Do you know if any of the basic weaknesses are terrors? Are there situations where you might run this just because your basic weakness happens to be solved by this? I
I
do not. I know most basic weaknesses are madnesses. I don't know off the top of my head if there's any with the terror trait.
I honestly don't know. I bet you our chat might know. If
Yeah,
anyone wants
maybe
to
someone can help
chat.
us out.
Um, yeah, it's. I mean, Sean and I have talked about on previous AV clubs about that kind of that seeker builder archetype where you're super supporty. Um, I could
Hmm.
kind of see this there, uh, but Roland is the one deck that I've put this in a couple times, and I mean, especially solo Roland, because you're gonna have clues, and healing 2 horror
Right.
is a decent heal.
Yeah, and in general, I look at when it comes to healing, it's so much more appealing to run cards that just soak that in the first place.
Hmm.
But that's a great point with Roland. Roland, I don't think has a lot of high sanity soak options unless he buys into Elder Sign Amulet.
Yeah, I mean, you've got Brother X.
Sure.
Upgraded Beat Cop has an additional sanity, so you can take 1 before it goes crazy. And then you've got the Seeker allies, like Art Student, Lab Assistant.
That's true. That's true.
Um,
But we're still pretty limited with level
yeah,
0 options, at least.
yeah, yeah, season. And there are
Okay.
no basic weakness terror cards.
Oh, all right. Thank you. Yeah, I hadn't clicked over to look at the chat. Nope,
There,
no terror.
there goes your
Thank you.
plan.
Yeah, okay. So that's one big use case for this. Ruled out for now.
Yeah, yeah. I think if you're playing that seeker helpy archetype, maybe, but so card.
Yeah, so. And a little like 2 resources just as a one-off heal 2 horror with an extra rider that you have to be or you have to have at least 1 clue.
Yeah,
That's not cheap.
yeah. It's kind of got the cost might be a bit too high.
Mm-hmm.
All right, the famous archaic glyphs.
Oh yeah.
All right, so we have two of them. One of them is guiding stones. One of them is prophecy foretold. So I'll kind of read through both of them somewhat at the same time.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea.
So both of them are 2 costs. Both of them are 3 XP. Both of them are spells. Both of them have uh, the whole clause where you can only include this asset in your deck by upgrading it from archaic glyphs untranslated, and only if you have translated the glyphs in your campaign log. Um, both of them have 3 charges. They do have different pips. Guiding Stones has a willpower and an intellect, and Prophecy Foretold has an intellect and a. So let's talk about Guiding Stones first. 3 uses and actions: spend 1 charge, investigate. For every 2 points you succeed by, discover 1 additional clue at your location. So turn yourself into Rex.
Did you say, by the way, that these? Maybe I missed it. I'm sorry. That these fill the arcane slot?
You know what? I just saw that. By the way, they
Yeah,
both fill the arcane slot.
which is interesting because the untranslated version fills your hand, so
Mm-hmm.
they become arcane once you. Well, they get the spell trait also once you translate them.
Yeah.
Sorry. Anyway, I totally interrupted to say that.
Oh, no, that's fine. So our Guiding Stones basically turns you into Rex, but only thrice
Yes.
instead of all the time.
Right.
Um, I'm not a huge fan of the Guiding Stones version. I think if you want to play Rex, and
Yeah.
do it being only being able to do it 3 times doesn't seem as advantageous as the other version of this card.
Agreed. And if I'm primarily seekers will have this obviously since it's level 3. Um, they should be having no trouble investigating. They shouldn't need to go through all this work to get another card to sometimes give them an extra clue occasionally.
Mm-hmm.
Three times max.
Yeah, I mean you could, depending on the scenario, like your Blood on the Altar, where you have to clear out the chamber. You could use this and just like throw everything you have at the investigate tests and try to get it in 1 turn. But that seems like a really risky
True.
scenario.
Yeah, it absolutely is. I don't even know if that would get you there in 1 turn. Isn't that usually a double-digit number of clues?
Yeah, but it's for every 2 points you succeed by. So I mean, if you had like higher ed, let's say, and a bunch of resources, and get your investigate to like 28, you could
That
grab
is
like.
something. Yeah, that is something that I had um, blanked out on a little bit. That it is for every 2 points you succeed by, not just if you succeed by at least 2.
Yeah.
So this does allow you to really dump a whole lot of skill cards or resources if you have a talent that pumps your intellect skill into a few really big investigations.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting, but I don't know.
Yeah, it seems like a heavy investment for very niche circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think Prophecy Foretold the archaic glyphs, so let's go over that one. Uses 3 again. Action: spend a charge, investigate. If you succeed, you may automatically evade an engaged enemy. This action does not provoke attacks of opportunity. This one is fantastic. This is basically evading with your investigate skill,
Mm-hmm.
but you're also getting the clue, and you're evading the enemy. Like, it just, the action compression is awesome in this card.
Yes, agreed. This one is great. It lets you safely investigate and then get the hell out of there. And there are plenty of times when that comes in extremely handy, especially when it's an enemy that's not going to hunt you and you just need to get into somewhere, get those clues, and get out, leave that enemy behind.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big fan of this one. before we move on, I want to circle over to the question of, is it worth translating in the first place for this
Uh,
thing?
I think it is for the prophecy foretold glyphs. Yeah, I do.
Okay,
Are you of not that opinion?
I guess so. It's a lot of hoops to jump through to translate this one.
Yeah.
Discarding, so it's I'm looking at the untranslated archaic glyphs. They fill your hand slot. You have to play it. It does cost 0, but then you discard on 3 different actions each time you discard a card with at least 1 intellect skill icon from your hand. So it costs you a total of 4 cards, 4 actions just to translate it, and that's if you even draw it early enough in the campaign.
Hmm.
I think it's a and then to put, say you want 2 copies of Prophecy Foretold, 6 experience on top of that,
Yeah.
it's a big cost.
What I find, like, I mean, the thing I like about what I usually do, or what I have been doing, is I take both the glyphs and the um the elixirs, the strange solutions, and I put them both in the deck, and basically whichever one I figure out first, that's the one I keep. And I either
Hmm.
take the prophecy foretold, the evading one, or I take acidic ichor because there are no other ones as far as I'm concerned. Um, but basically, it's for my seeker, and I'm like, yeah, I need a way to deal with enemies, and whichever one I can hit first, that's what I do. Um, so comparing this to acidic ichor, I mean, it
It
dep-
really takes the feel of your deck in 2 very different directions when you do that in our to going with this or acidic kicker. Do you
yeah.
fight or do you run?
I mean, it's yeah, because sometimes it's like, well, I can just run and who cares because it doesn't have hunter. But other times it's like, well, I could just kill it. Right? Um, so I tend to value, I think, archaic glyphs a little bit more now.
Hmm.
Um, if I'm playing multiplayer, if I'm playing solo, I pretty much go for acidic kicker.
Okay, yeah, I think I buy that. And BD Flory has a great point in the chat. The untranslated glyphs are a tome, so Daisy gets to pour her extra actions into that.
Mm-hmm.
So I will caveat my observation that it's a big task to translate these. Daisy has a pretty easy time of it. She still has to discard cards into it,
Yeah,
but at least she's got those bonus actions to put in.
yeah.
That's a great point.
And with her with prophecy foretold, she's starting to evade at 5.
Hello?
Hello. Uh oh. Chat, can you hear us?
Hey, I think it might have been my internet that just uh, flickered for a second.
Oh,
I
okay.
couldn't hear you for about 15 seconds, but I think I'm back.
No worries.
Sorry about that.
No, that's okay. I gotta edit it. So live
Yeah,
audience gets the
you
shit take,
that's right. Thank you all for
and
being here
also
to see.
YouTube because I don't edit it for YouTube.
Oh, right. Yeah, very sorry about that. You were just making, I think, an additional comment about Daisy when I lost you.
Oh, it was a stupid idea.
Okay, we can leave it at that
Yeah.
then.
All right. Well, you want to read Cheap Shot? I feel like I should have had some kind of weird intro for that, or like a pun for Cheap Shot, but I just couldn't think of
Hmm.
anything fast enough.
Yeah, you know what? I don't have anything either.
Oh well.
It does feel like, hit me with your cheap shot.
Hit me with your cheap
All right.
shot. Far away.
Fire away. All
Oh
right,
god,
let's.
wait till that musical episode, guys. It's gonna be glorious.
Oh man. Okay. Let's start reading this card before this gets any worse. Cheap Shot is a rogue event that costs 2, and if you put it into a skill test, has a combat or an agility pip. It is a trick, and it says fight. Add your agility value to your skill value for this attack. If you succeed by 2 or more, automatically evade the attacked enemy. Aim for the eyes, they told me, which again goes great with the art as
Yeah.
a woman throws some sort of powder or dust or something into the dozen or so eyes of a
Yeah.
monster.
How could you not aim for the eyes, essentially?
What do you think of this one?
Um I think this is a really good. I know it says trick, a decent trick card for rogues. Um,
Hmm.
it can be. I really like it with Wendy. Um, sometimes. uh,
Yeah.
Jenny maybe. Like it's yeah. Skids takes it. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
certainly. Yeah, I wish it had extra damage on it also as like icing on the cake.
yeah.
Doing any kind of fight and just getting one damage out of it so much of the time barely even matters, especially if you're evading the enemy and then trying to just get away from it.
Yeah, and I guess I mean you have to succeed by two or more as well to evade the attacked enemy. Otherwise, it's just a single damage for two costs and a token draw.
Yeah, that usually drives me a little. Or I usually kind of give a second thought when it has that rider, but in this case, you're adding two skills together. You're
Hmm.
probably going to succeed by two or more, especially on lower difficulty.
Yeah, I mean Skids is taking it at 7, Jenny's at 6.
Yeah, yeah, and you're testing against the fight value of the enemy, which is generally 4 or less. So you have a pretty decent shot.
Hmm.
I guess yeah. Jenny is just 6 if she doesn't have any other boosts. You'd probably want to pump that up with some skill cards,
Yeah,
or have an ally in play helping you with that. I don't think I really like the 6 versus 3 or 6 versus 4 odds of getting this evasion. And if you're not going to get this evasion, then what's the point?
yeah. Another interesting thing about this card is it is not limited to non-elite enemies. Like this can evade a boss.
Ooh,
Um, yeah.
that is interesting. Yeah, you mentioned Blood on the Altar a few minutes ago. That is actually the very last time I played Arkham. Was a coworker on Friday. We played Blood on the Altar, so that's fresh in my mind. This would
Hmm.
be great against Silas. He had, I think, 7 evade
Yeah, it's
and
huge.
and and 3 fight. So this would be a great way to get him exhausted for a round, and everyone can hang out in his chamber without getting everyone attacked.
Hmm. Have you used the succeed by two deck archetype much?
I haven't. I've occasionally thrown in some cards here and there, but not like built a deck around that. Have you?
I've dabbled. I've dabbled. Um,
Okay. How's it worked?
as a fun deck, it's fun. I wouldn't take it to, let's say, Iron Man because I don't think it's quite something super reliable. Because I
Sure.
mean, one bad token pull with both your opportunists in the pool, and all of a sudden your tricks are
Mm.
cut in half. Um, but I can. This is definitely a card I would see in that deck because you can usually succeed by two quite often because you throw a lot in. And with the opportunists,
Mhm.
opportunists. There we go. You're basically getting a unexpected courage every test for so
Yeah,
it's pretty
yeah,
decent.
that's absolutely true. Mm, yeah, okay. Anyway, I like this card. I think that the succeed by two or more is okay here. I'm definitely not sold by trying to throw them all into one deck yet
Yeah.
and make that a thing.
The next card is pickpocketing, which supports this archetype we just spoke of. But
That's true.
it's pickpocketing level 2. Cost 2. It has 2 agility pips. It's talent and illicit and fast, which I think is huge. And then reaction: after you evade an enemy, exhaust pickpocketing, draw one card or gain one resource. If you succeed by two or more, do both instead.
So I love this as an upgrade from pickpocketing because you don't have to succeed by two or more to enjoy the difference between the cards.
Mm-hmm.
You still have that option of a card or a resource, and there's a lot of the time, in the same campaign that I'm playing at work, I'm playing as Finn and he's doomed. I don't always want to draw extra cards.
Mm-hmm.
So pickpocketing lets me convert what was a draw, into a resource, and that is a lot more appealing when you're doomed, or plenty of other times when there's a weakness in your deck that is looming.
Yeah. I think this is just a bomb card, like regardless of the succeed by two deck archetype. I think this is just a great card to put in any deck that's going to be evading people moderately often.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that it's fast is fantastic, and basically you evade an enemy, draw a card, or gain a resource. Cool. That is
And put two of them in your deck there. Well, they both work,
yeah,
or the other one has two agility pips upgraded, and that's great too.
yeah.
Yeah, all around awesome upgrade to what was already since the core set a pretty good card.
Hmm. All right. Would you like to read the Flux?
I would. It's our first Mystic card. It's an event that costs 1 or has a Wild Pip. It's an insight. It says shuffle your discard pile into your deck and draw 1 then remove it from the game. So no recursion, hijinks, shuffling your deck 5 times in one game.
Darn.
Have you run this? Have you found a good reason to throw it into a Mystic deck or anyone else's?
I've thrown one into Safina.
Okay.
Depending on how the game's going, if I've used a lot of her painted worlds, being able to shuffle those all back is pretty decent. That's about it.
Yeah, so it's hilarious to me that they basically printed like the silver bullet for Dunwich's kind of campaign mechanic of milling your
Mhm.
deck and then killing you when it runs out into the next campaign. So you have, I think that's really smart because that way it's not available while Dunwich is fresh and new and what you're struggling your way through. But
Yeah.
then if you want to just throw in this card, then just feel super powerful because you outsmarted the campaign. Here it is. Um, I can see the use in Safina so that you can kind of optionally play it if your discard pile is looking more appealing than what you know is left in your deck.
Mhm.
Essentially, whether it's worth a deck slot, I think the Wild Pip makes it like a good one of because it's
Yeah.
always like late game if you decide you're not going to play it or in an emergency, you always get a use out of a wild icon.
Yeah. I mean, if we see an investigator that comes out that is incredibly draw heavy and can play Quantum Flux, like that might be a situation you'd throw it in. But it's still,
Maybe, but all that if the reason for doing it is that you're drawing some cards your deck's gonna run out, all it's doing is avoiding one horror,
yeah,
right?
yeah, you're
And
right.
probably an investigator that drew a lot of cards would be a more like mystic or seeker investigator and probably have high sanity. Like I don't think you'd need this then either.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's a Dunwich kill card, and
Yeah,
that's that.
pretty much.
So our next Mystic card is Recharge. It's
Hmm.
a level 2 event, 0 cost, 2 willpower pips, and it's a spell. I already like all of this for Mystic. Uh,
Yes.
Choose a spell or relic asset controlled by an investigator at your location and reveal a random chaos token from the chaos bag. If you reveal a bad stuff token, discard the chosen asset. Otherwise, add 3 charges to the chosen asset.
I'm of two minds on this. I think the bad stuff, the backfire effect is
Mhm.
harsh. You would probably play it on a spell that's out of charges anyway, so I guess discarding
Yeah.
the chosen asset isn't too bad. But man, to have both this card whiff and you end up in a worse position than you were if you hadn't played it in the first place when you draw that token, that's rough.
I
But
mean, that is Mystic,
everything else
though.
about this card is awesome. Yeah, that
Yeah.
is Mystic. You're absolutely right. And to be honest, I'm probably it's probably I have some results oriented bias because I have watched several spells
Hmm.
get discarded to this. I think more than I've seen at work. The couple of campaigns that I've run recharge.
Yeah, it's. I think you nailed it like right on the head there. So I would only play this on like a shriveling that is now empty, right? I wouldn't waste it
Yes.
on like, oh, my shriveling's half full. Let's see if I can add 3 charges to it. It's like it's essentially extra ammo, but the mystic version of it. But there's a risk to it. Uh, I mean, so combo wise, I mean, you could have a quantum flux in your hand, and if you discard the chosen asset, you quantum flux it back into your deck. Super combo.
I,
I'm just kidding. That's a horrible idea. Don't do that.
then just draw 20 cards to
Yeah,
guarantee you get it back, and you're set.
yeah. Boo. Um, I think it's
um,
okay though for 0 cost.
Yeah, the price is right for sure. The icons on it are great. 2
Hmm.
willpower, although maybe Mystics don't even need willpower icons that often because they probably already have plenty. But the thing that I do love about this is that essentially it's almost like another copy of like any spell you need in the moment. Like it's like another copy of Shriveling or another copy of Rite of Seeking or another copy of Suggestion or whatever you're running in Akashi.
Or
that's out of
Mists of Relay or whatever.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen anyone play that card, but sure, that one too. Maybe that's a hot take. Maybe I am just blind to how great that card is. But yeah,
you should check it out. It's an okay card.
Yeah?
But
Okay.
anyways.
So yeah, the flexibility of this, the fact that it is there to be charges that will be used for what you need in the moment is great.
Yeah, I think that's what it comes down to. It's a third copy of something, right?
It's just sometimes, yeah. It's just, I think what gets me about it is it's just so swingy, because if you're using it on a spell that's out of charges, you are feeling fairly desperate, right? Because you obviously need more charges on the spell and have run out, have used it up, meaning you've had plenty of use for it, and there's still more need for it. And then here you are, this comes along, and it just discards the spell.
Oh. Hey, is Grotesque Statue a relic?
The
reason I ask is on the second last charge, you could like use this to try and recharge your Grotesque Statue, but use Grotesque Statue to draw 2 tokens instead of 1.
I just pulled it up, and it absolutely is a relic.
So, oh, super combo.
Yes, that is a combo. And honestly, Grotesque Statue goes with this great, even if you're using it to recharge a spell, since you're twice as likely to get a safe token out of it.
You just can't use this when using the last token on Grotesque Statue, because as soon as you use the last thing, it goes away, and then it's not there for when recharge hits it.
Oh, is that right? Is that how that would interact? I guess so. Interesting. Okay. So you gotta, if you want to pile onto your Grotesque Statue, it's got to be with at least 2 charges left in the first place.
Yeah.
Then if you really whiff, if you draw 2 bad sub tokens out of the bag, then you've thrown away a Grotesque Statue with 2 charges on it.
Yeah. Okay.
But odds that are pretty low.
Well, on that note, you want to move on to Madame Lebranche?
I would love to. Madame Lebranche, the mysterious benefactress, is, I think, the first ally we've looked at tonight. She's a 2-cost asset and has an intellect pip if you were going to throw her into that. She's an ally and has the patron trait. As a fast action, if you have no cards in your hand, you can exhaust her to draw 1 card. Or if you have no resources, you can exhaust her to gain 1 resource. And she has 2 health and 2 sanity. And I get to the bottom and read the ally slot. I already said she was an ally, so people probably know that's the case. I'm feeling pretty good about the Madame. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, there's if you're playing a Dark Horse build, she's absolutely fantastic. I think she's a good generalist, if you want to call it, for a lot of decks that can take her. Just the fact that she's got a bit of soak in her as well. I can't believe a little old lady has 2 health and 2 sanity, but what do I know? I like her in someone like Wendy, because Wendy could be chucking cards to replay Chaos Bag tests, and she might run low on cards. Same thing with Ashcan Pete, discarding cards for Duke. Like, the ability to just draw extra cards is fantastic. And yeah, if you're playing that Dark Horse build where you want to drop down to 0, but then gain a little bit of resources to like pump your Fire Axe and get back down to 0, I think Madame Lebranche is a very strong card.
Yeah, I agree with most of what you said. I do think she's a strong card, and her cost is 2 just for 2 and 2 soak. Like, if nothing else, that's not bad.
Yeah.
And then you're going to get a lot of use, I think, out of her resource gain ability, especially in a Dark Horse build. And even if you're not a Dark Horse build, usually you find yourself spending all your resources sometimes, and one can bounce right back. In my experience, the draw a card doesn't find that much use. Even with Wendy or Ashcan Pete, where you're discarding cards, you usually, especially as a Seeker, have Lucky or some kind of in case of emergency card that you're trying to hold on to. Maybe I or the friends I'm playing with are just playing wrong and should be throwing those into those abilities too.
Fair.
But in my experience, Madame almost might as well not have that first line of her text, but it's still great for the second text and the fact that she's a 2/2 ally.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, I'd say the big ally she's competing with in her faction would probably be what's the name? I always call him B-Mock for Big Man on Campus.
Yeah, Peter Sylvester.
Peter Sylvester. Um, he can't soak damage, but he can soak horror like a madman,
Yeah, like nobody's business.
and he gives you stat boost. But like I feel like Madame Lebranche and Pete are worth buying charisma for.
Yeah, yeah, probably so. Especially you can upgrade Pete and be getting 2 stats boosted by him.
Hmm.
They're a pretty dynamic duo. It really an unlikely pairing. This mysterious,
Yes.
mysterious elderly benefactress and the high school quarterback.
Yeah. Maybe she's paying his tuition or something.
That must be it. Let's go with that. If
Yeah.
it's not that, it's something worse.
Oh God. Okay. Moving on to Snare Trap. Uh, it's a survivor card. 2 cost, 2 XP. It's an event. It has a willpower pip and agility pip. It's trap and improvised. Attached to your location, limit 1 per location. Forced after a non-elite enemy enters attached location, exhaust that enemy, disengage it from all investigators, and attach Snare Trap to it. Forced, when attached enemy would ready, instead discard Snare Trap. Really like this card.
I do too, and I had completely underestimated it until a few weeks ago. Actually, apparently every animation is from this one Dunwich campaign I'm playing at work. My coworker bought this for his Yorick deck, and he's fairly new to the game. Like almost everyone I play with is. It's a thing. I keep teaching this game people. He did not know it was going to happen in Essex County Express, but this card was amazing there.
Oh yeah.
I'm completely blanking on the name of the big hunter monsters, but we got one into the car behind us, evaded it, moved up one, laid the snare trap, and it came in and got stuck until the car it was in got sucked into the sky, and it was no longer an issue.
That's amazing.
It was yeah, it was awesome. That's literally the only time I've seen this card in action, and I think I will be buying it a lot more going forward after that.
Mm-hmm. It does have the caveat of non-elite, which I mean is fair, because it could break some scenarios, especially in the Carcosa campaign. What is God help me if this is the scenario that we're reviewing right now? The one where you're running around Paris.
I believe that is the tackle.
Okay. For some reason,
we're talking about right now. Phantom of Truth is the like outdoors in Paris scenario, right?
Okay. So this could possibly break that scenario, or make it incredibly easy, right?
And you're saying if it allowed elite enemies.
If it allowed elite. So I understand that part of it, but I think that what this card does is it allows you to, and similar to the scenario you gave, it allows you to outpace an enemy for a couple turns. And I find that often a couple turns is all you need, right? Like think of Lost in Time and Space, like those non-elite enemies that are hunting for you, like the interdimensional whatevers. If you can just get 2 locations ahead of them while they're exhausted somewhere, that's usually enough to make it. You can kind of keep pace after that. It also helps if this would be great in Min, because she's not super combat oriented, and so if she's sitting at a location, she could lay down a snare trap, and then she doesn't have to worry about enemies coming out for her.
Right? Yeah. I imagine it's fun in Undimensioned and Unseen too against the Broods of Yog-Sothoth. They're not elite, which still feels weird, but you can kind of just lay this down and wait for one of them to wander into it. And then it will be easy to just get there. You got plenty of time to get there and take it out.
In that horrible killer scenario that Matt put out on the website that had to do with Undimensioned Unseen, he made the Broods elite, did he not? He changed the rules on them?
I think so.
I think he did, and he didn't.
That rings a bell.
Yeah, and then he banned all the cards that allowed movement.
Right.
Oh, he's such a lovable jerk.
Yeah. Did you ever try that one?
I tried it once. It went horrible. But after playing it now, I kind of understand. I think there's a few ways to still game it a bit,
Hmm.
but you need to build a deck specifically for that scenario. Like, don't try and put that into a campaign run you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know why you would ever take his designer challenges and slide into a campaign you're running.
Yeah.
That just sounds like a way to run your campaign off a cliff.
So, pretty decent pack. I mean, I say that about a lot of packs because it usually is, but I think
Yeah,
I think
pretty well rounded. Some hits, some misses, but more hits.
you have a favorite card from the pack.
Is it? I'm trying to back up to the pack now. I'm looking at Arkham DB as we do this. I mean, it's kind of a cop out because, like I said, I will probably never play it. But I'll see you in hell is one of my favorite cards, just for what it is and what it does.
That's
But if we're
fair.
going for favorite card that I actually will frequently play and get a lot of use out of, probably pickpocketing level 2. That is just all around really no downside to that card for almost any rogue, especially if you're building with a lot of evading in mind in Forgotten Age or something.
Yeah,
Uh,
I feel
what would you call your favorite?
I am torn between pickpocketing and Madame Lebranche. Like, just
Yeah, another good choice.
ah, two really good cards. I really like Snare Trap, but it's kind of fun more so than good. But it's still good. But it's fun. But pickpocketing and Madame Lebranche, like, just getting that economy going. Like, they're both great economy cards. Um, and that's what I live and die by.
That click economy, you're breaking it.
Yeah. So, Brandon, you run a YouTube channel in addition to playing a bunch of Arkham. Why don't you tell us about that?
I I do. Started just a few weeks ago. It is called Optimal Play, and we do live play videos of board games and card games, tabletop games, including Arkham Horror. We use multiple cameras and edit it, so it's kind of shot like a TV show. Basically, low rent tabletop. If you've seen Will Wheaton's show, we're having a lot of fun with it, and yeah, I hope that anyone hearing this thinks that sounds interesting will check it out. You can find it at youtube.com/a whole bunch of gibberish because you need a few more subscribers than we have to get a custom URL. But you can follow us on Instagram at optimal_play and go from there, or you can search Optimal Play on YouTube and you'll find a bunch of our videos and also videos about the episode of the TV show Billions called Optimal Play. So
Oh,
it's a pretty safe search, and you'll definitely find us that way too.
right on. Well, thanks, guys, for joining us. We'll be right back with the next episode. Stay tuned.
Thank you so much. Talk to you guys soon.